What if the next world war is already knocking on our doors, masked behind escalating conflicts and the looming threat of nuclear warfare? It's a chilling thought, isn't it? But it's one we can't afford to ignore. In recent times, we've seen several incidents that have sparked concern among global leaders. Notably, the targeting of Russia's over-the-horizon early warning radar systems. These systems, vital to Russia's defensive capabilities, have been subject to unexplained disruptions. This raises the question, are we witnessing the preparations for a nuclear war? Such a war would be catastrophic on a scale we can scarcely imagine. This isn't just the view of alarmists or conspiracy theorists. It's a concern voiced by leading figures on the world stage. Serbian President Vučić, for instance, has warned of a potential tragedy far greater than World War II. Other European leaders have echoed these sentiments, expressing grave concerns about the escalating conflict. But where is this conflict coming from? Some suggest that the United States and its allies are provoking Russia into conducting a tactical nuclear strike. It's a worrying scenario with massive financial implications for the military-industrial complex. We'll be delving into these issues in depth throughout this video. We'll be looking at the concerns raised by European leaders, potential provocations, and the responses from NATO and Russia. We'll also discuss the possible consequences of these actions and what they could mean for the world at large. The reality is we're living in a time of unprecedented tension. The threat of nuclear war isn't just a relic from the Cold War era, it's a very real and present danger. And it's one we need to understand if we're to navigate the uncertain times ahead. As we move forward, let's keep in mind that the stakes have never been higher. The decisions made today could shape the course of history. And as we'll see, those decisions are being made in an increasingly volatile and unpredictable world. How did we get here? Let's peel back the layers of this complex issue. It all begins with the targeting of Russian radar systems. These over-the-horizon early warning systems are like the eyes and ears of a nation, scanning the skies for incoming threats. When these systems are targeted, it sends a chilling message: someone might be preparing for nuclear war. This hasn't gone unnoticed by European leaders. Serbian President Vučić recently voiced his concerns, hinting at a potential tragedy greater than World War II. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The possibility of a conflict that could dwarf the most devastating war in history. But these aren't just empty words. There's a growing sense of unease across the continent. But why would anyone want to provoke such a catastrophe? That's where the US and its allies come into the picture. Some analysts suggest that these provocations could be aimed at triggering a tactical nuclear strike from Russia. It's a dangerous game of brinkmanship, where the stakes are unimaginably high. And then there's the financial aspect of it all. Wars, as brutal and destructive as they are, can be immensely profitable for the military-industrial complex. The companies that manufacture weapons, ammunition, and other military equipment stand to make a fortune if tensions escalate into a full-blown conflict. The implications of these developments are far-reaching and potentially disastrous. As the world gets sucked into this vortex of escalating tensions, the possibility of a nuclear conflict is becoming increasingly real. And so, as we stand at the precipice of what could potentially be the deadliest conflict in human history, the world watches with bated breath. The next move on this global chessboard could either pull us back from the brink or push us into the abyss. As tensions rise, the world watches and waits for the next move. In this high-stakes game of chess, what are the possible moves and counter-moves? We find ourselves asking this as we delve into NATO's potential responses and the escalating risks. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, has made claims that it would respond conventionally to any Russian use of nuclear weapons. This, of course, raises a significant question. What does a conventional response look like in the face of a nuclear attack? It's a titanic struggle of power, a precarious balancing act that could tip the scales towards a massive escalation. While the world holds its breath, we see an unexpected move. Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, has recently called for peace. This is not a plea from a man known for his soft stance. No, this is a strategic move, a pawn advancing cautiously on the chessboard. It's a call that carries historical weight, echoing through the corridors of past conflicts. Could this be a precursor to further military actions, or is it a genuine call for de-escalation? The answer to that question may determine the course of our near future. As we grapple with these uncertainties, we must not ignore the elephant in the room, the potential for escalation. If a nuclear strike occurs, the retaliation, whether nuclear or conventional, could spiral into a global conflict. This is not a scenario anyone wants, yet it's a possibility we must face. The stakes are high, the players are unpredictable, and the game is far from over. As the potential for escalation grows, the world must prepare for all possibilities. The chessboard is set, the pieces are moving, and we can only hope that when the game ends, peace will prevail. What can an individual do when faced with such global crises? That's a question many of us are grappling with as we navigate these uncertain times. It's no secret that public tension and stress are at an all-time high, with concerns over escalating conflicts, inflation, and the cost of living. These worries have a way of seeping into our everyday lives, casting a shadow over even the most mundane tasks. But let's not lose hope just yet. There are ways we can prepare ourselves, strategies we can employ to ensure that we're not left floundering when crisis hits. One of these is stockpiling supplies. Now, this doesn't mean we need to build a bunker in our backyard and start hoarding canned goods. No, it's more about being mindful of our consumption and ensuring we have a buffer of essentials should supply chains be disrupted. Think along the lines of non-perishable foods, basic medical supplies, and necessary household items. Another strategy worth considering is learning self-sustaining practices. This could mean starting a vegetable garden, learning how to purify water, or even picking up some basic first aid skills. These practices not only provide us with a sense of control in uncertain times, but they also equip us with valuable skills that can come in handy in various situations. Interestingly, the UK government has recognized the need for public preparation in times of crisis. They've recently launched a new website dedicated to helping individuals prepare for major disasters. It's a valuable resource packed with practical tips and advice, and it's definitely worth checking out. So while the world around us may seem chaotic and out of control, it's important to remember that there are steps we can take to mitigate the impact of these global crises on our personal lives. Preparation and knowledge can be our greatest allies in uncertain times. How are the West and Ukraine responding to the escalating conflict? Let's dive right in. The West has not been silent in this brewing storm, with several leaders openly calling for Ukraine to use Western weapons against Russian targets. These calls are not solely for show. They represent a marked shift in the geopolitical landscape, a clear alignment of interests, and a willingness to provide tangible support in the face of a looming threat. In particular, Sweden has taken a decisive step, authorizing Ukraine to use Swedish-delivered weapon systems. This move is significant as it signals a deeper involvement from traditionally neutral countries, underlining the gravity of the situation and the potential for wider conflicts. But it's not just about supplying arms. Training is also a crucial piece of the puzzle. NATO, in a clear display of support, has been training Ukrainian pilots. The first batch of these pilots, trained on F-16 fighter jets, has recently graduated and stands ready. These pilots, armed with state-of-the-art machinery, could potentially target Russian airfields and ammunition depots, further escalating the situation. Of course, this raises the question of retaliation and the spiraling cycle of conflict that might ensue. Poland, a key NATO member, has already voiced its stance. The Polish Prime Minister has made it clear that NATO would respond decisively to a potential Russian tactical nuclear strike. This statement, while aimed at deterring aggression, also highlights the high stakes and the potential scope of the conflict. As we can see, the West and Ukraine are not backing down. They are preparing for conflict, escalating their military capabilities, and showing a united front against perceived threats. This is not a simple game of chess. It's a high-stakes gamble with global consequences. As the West prepares for conflict, Russia responds with accusations and threats. This tension, this brinkmanship, is the reality we face today. As we navigate these troubled waters, it's crucial to understand the perspectives, the actions, and the potential repercussions of this escalating conflict. What are Russia and China's moves in this global chess game? In the shadowy world of geopolitics, accusations often fly as fast as bullets. Russia has pointed fingers at the United States, blaming them for the attack on the Armavir radar station, a critical component of their early warning system. This accusation raises the stakes significantly, suggesting a new level of aggression that could potentially escalate into a full-blown conflict. Adding to the tension, there are reports of an alleged hit on an F-16 base in Ukraine. The details remain murky, but it's clear that Ukraine is not backing down, taking defensive actions to protect its airspace. The picture that's emerging is one of a world teetering on the brink, with every action and counteraction bringing us closer to the precipice. But it's not just Russia in the spotlight. China, a key player in global politics, is making moves of its own. Preparations have been noted for a potential invasion of Taiwan. China has been amassing ferries and other equipment, a clear demonstration of intent that has sent ripples of concern across the globe. In addition to these preparations, China has issued a stern warning to the United States. Any trips to Taiwan, they caution, could be seen as a provocation, a move that might trigger an aggressive response. This is a high-stakes game of brinkmanship, with the potential for disastrous consequences. Yet, amid the accusations and posturing, there's a sense of an unseen game being played. Russia and China, two global superpowers, are making their moves, adjusting their strategies in response to the shifting geopolitical landscape. Every decision, every action takes on new significance in this context, feeding into a complex web of alliances and enmities. What will be the outcome of this global chess game? Only time will tell. As we watch the pieces move across the board, we can only hope that cooler heads will prevail, that dialogue will replace aggression, and that peace will ultimately triumph over conflict. As Russia and China make their moves, the world watches with bated breath. How can we prepare for the worst while hoping for the best? That's a question that's been swirling around, especially in these unpredictable times. The world we're living in is rife with uncertainties. The escalating conflict and the looming threat of nuclear war can leave us feeling vulnerable. But remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand about the situation, the better equipped we are to deal with it. So, let's talk about preparing for worst-case scenarios. It's not about living in fear, but about being proactive, being ready. It's about having a plan B and even a plan C, just in case plan A doesn't work out. One way of doing this is by harnessing undervalued opportunities. For instance, consider investing in affordable land outside cities. Not only does this provide a potential safe haven should urban areas become unsafe, it also offers a chance to learn and practice self-sustaining skills like farming. Another key aspect of preparation is recognizing and understanding novel threats. Take artificial general intelligence, for example. This emerging technology could revolutionize our world, but it also has potential to pose unique geopolitical challenges. We need to stay informed about these new developments and consider how they might impact our lives and our world. But preparing for worst-case scenarios doesn't mean we should compromise our daily enjoyment. After all, we're not just surviving, we're living. So, while we prepare, let's also remember to enjoy the simple things, to love and laugh, to dream and hope. Because it's our ability to hope, to envision a future that's better than our present, that truly makes us resilient. So let's keep learning, keep preparing, and keep hoping. Let's remember that while we can't control everything that happens in the world, we can control how we respond to it. In the face of escalating conflict and potential nuclear war, knowledge, preparation, and resilience will be our most valuable assets.